City Commission meeting is now called to order. The City of Clewiston City Commission meeting will be live on the city's Facebook page at facebook.com/City of Clewiston and the city's website at clewiston-fl.gov/meetings. Public comments or questions may be submitted via email to the city clerk at cityclerk.
Conference recording has started.
At clewiston-fl.gov for the Commission's consideration up till 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Public comments will also be allowed via telephone, 863-254-4038, room number 994-729, at the time the agenda item is being considered when the mayor invites public comments. Members of the public, when addressing the Commission via email or telephone, must state their name, address, contact information, and agenda item that they wish to speak about. Be advised that the Commission may take action on items not listed on the agenda. If this occurs, public comments will be received at the time the item is considered, provided you speak up indicating your desire to speak when the mayor invites public comments. Pursuant to Executive Order Number 20-69, issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on March 20th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at a specific location, and utilizing communications media technology such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.54 5B2 Florida statutes. The members of the City Commission appearing remotely for this meeting are myself, Mayor Molly Gardner. I would ask that each commissioner please state their name for the record. Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor Michael Atkinson.
Commissioner Christine Peterson.
Next.
Commissioner Melanie McGahee.
Next. Commissioner Rodriguez. Commissioner Rodriguez, are you on the line?
Commissioner Rodriguez, present.
Thank you. And I believe that we have our city manager.
Yes, Randy Martin is present.
And our city attorney.
Yes, Carrie Brandenburg on the phone.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we're all present to be able to continue with this meeting. Please join me in the Lord's Prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation. And
deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.
Forever and ever.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
To the flag
of the United
of
States
the United States of America, and to the republic
of
which
which
stands
stands
one nation under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
liberty.
with liberty and justice.
for all. Thank you so much. I apologize for the time delay there. Are there any changes, additions, or deletions to the approval of the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Our city clerk, were there any public comments submitted today or prior to today?
There were none.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. We have before us consent agenda, items A through H. The recommended motion is to approve the consent agenda unless there's discussion on any of the items.
So moved.
I'm sorry. Is that Commissioner Peterson making the motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the second was Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Agenda item report number 2 is resolution number 2020-31. Resolution 2020-31 approves work order number 22 of the continuing agreement for professional services between the City of Clewiston and Johnson Engineering for water main improvements to serve the commercial area south of the intersection of Commercio Street and Ventura Avenue. Mr. Martin?
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, thank you, and all others that are listening in. This is a project that we have come up with the input from the engineer and staff to address service concerns south of Ventura for that section that's depicted on the map that's included in the agenda information that's available for anyone who doesn't have it, a copy online on our website. This work order would allow us to design improvements in the affected area to replace leaking insufficient pipes, as noted in your agenda package, and provide enhanced service to areas that are having poor quality of service south of Ventura. The funding that would be utilized was available in the budget, approved budget by the City Commission, for improvements that would have addressed this concern and would have been a considerable amount of work on the north side of Ventura related to a business upgrade at Allen J, but their project has been put on hold during the current situation. So we feel obligated to proceed to address the customer concerns and deficiencies in the area affected by these improvements with the project within the budget framework that was approved for the project. And then if and when their project proceeds, they would be responsible for the majority of the work on the north side. There might be some affiliated with improving service to the fire station and so forth that we would need to do, but we would not be doing the project that was originally envisioned with the city paying a substantial amount of money as was budgeted for this year because they're not going forward with the project at this time. I'll be glad to answer any questions, but you see the physical impact is $84,160. At this point, the engineer will do the construction plans and permitting and so forth, and we will proceed with the project to address the area between W.C. Owen and Central Avenue as depicted on this map.
And that goes from Ventura Avenue south to West Alvarez Avenue as well.
Yeah, and to the intersection of Commercio and South Duff Avenue.
Okay.
And Danny's on the line if you have any technical questions from his perspective, and I believe Andy's also available to answer any engineering questions related to it.
Any questions?
Go
ahead.
I have a question, Commissioner McGahee. How definitive is Allen J about going forward or not going forward?
And I'll let Danny comment. Danny had the direct conversation with him, but from what I understood is they have put all of their construction projects on hold, not just here, but I'll let Danny comment if to the detail he can.
Danny, are you on the line? You might have to hit *1 to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Now we can, thank you.
Man, these darn phones are complicated. Danny Williams, Utility Director. Melanie, I reached out to David just before the coronavirus. They were going to have a meeting, and of course, what's going on with this coronavirus, they canceled, and they really don't know when they're going to start again. So that's when I got with Randy and Andy and decided, because we had budgeted this job, to go ahead and start from Dean Duff and work our way back down Alvarez, going west, coming up Commercio, tying into Ventura, which will eliminate a low pressure issue and a couple of other issues we have. So That is the reasoning that we've changed. And it's actually, I believe, if Andy can say, it's going to be a little less what we had budgeted originally, this job. And I'll let Andy talk about that a little bit.
Andy Tilton for the record. Yes, the construction cost is anticipated to be slightly less than the previous project because there's a little bit less asphalt to dig up, and we don't have to go across WCO, and which was going to have to be a jack and bore, which is a more costly way to cross the road. And so for that, we can save a little bit of money. The other is that this area, besides improving the day-to-day water service, it'll also improve fire service because there'll be several fire hydrants constructed along the way.
Okay, so my question is not necessary, although I don't want to leave them in the lurch. If you've assured yourself that we're not going to do that, that's fine. But we also have the other side of that equation, that if they're not going to move forward with the project, then the undoing or unpermitting of the mobile home on US 27 needs to be addressed.
I have a question too, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I think Commissioner McGahee made a statement, and I think Randy, I know it was a temporary for construction purposes, and since if that's not going to go through, then that's something that needs to be answered. If you could check on that.
Yes, ma'am. We'll be glad to follow up with that. Of course, once the current restrictions are lifted, I guess we'll first get an update from them on where they stand on their project plans and then revisit that item with community development.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
The question I had, or maybe it's not even a question, maybe it's just a comment, on the water line, if Allen J doesn't tie in now, we're going to save a small percentage. But if they tie in a year after we do the water line that we're going to do, that cost to tie them in is going to be a lot more, in my opinion, than what it would cost now while they're doing it. Andy, is that a correct statement, or is that off?
Andy Tilton for the record. Commissioner Atkinson, it shouldn't be substantially different because it should be a large enough project. Where we're going to plan to stop the line now is on the south side of Ventura, and what we've looked at, instead of the plan we had before, is we've looked now at going due north across Ventura, up Comercio to near their south property line, and that would be less construction than the earlier project. But as far as cost, it would be a big enough project that I don't think the unit cost would be substantially higher.
Okay, so there's not a big benefit of doing it in the beginning.
If we were to try to do it now, I think there's a couple of things. One, it would be over the budget that we have for the project, and two, that I'm not sure what the encouragement for Allen J to participate in anyway if the city had already built a line all the way up to their south property line that has capacity to provide fire flow for them.
Yes, sir. Well, I know in the beginning they were going to pay 50% of what it costs to get the water line to them. I know if we do other blocks, we can't charge them half of that. So I know the cost has to be looked at.
I don't see any charge to them from this project, but it's also why we're stopping this project at Ventura, just to take care of other needs that the city's had for several years, servicing existing customers.
Okay. And will this, I heard Randy say something about the fire department. Would this tie the fire department in
this portion
with that line, or would that be later?
This portion of the project would not. When Allen J moves forward with theirs, and the lines continue to cross Ventura north on Comercio, that is when fire hydrants would get put in the proximity of the fire department building.
Okay.
Mike, this is Danny Williams, Utility Director. The cost that we're using is is our half. So that's why we're going ahead to do this project. And then if Alan J ever commits, then the rest of that job would be Alan J's, their cost.
Okay. That was really my question was it a benefit to the city and to them to do it now or do it later? So that answers my question.
Okay.
Sorry if it was a little confusing.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments on this by the commission or by the city attorney? Okay, at this time, I can't remember exactly what they have to do. Star 1 to unmute if you wish to make a public comment in regards to resolution number 2020-31. Are there any public comments in regards to resolution number 2020-31? Not being any public comments, we'll go ahead and mute the lines again. Okay, so what we'll need to do, the recommendation is to approve resolution number 2020-31, and by title is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, approving work order number 22 of the continuing agreement for professional services between the City of Clewiston and Johnson Engineering, Incorporated, for water main improvements. This has a financial impact up to $84,160.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion from the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Rodriguez. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 2020-32, approves an amendment to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the City of Clewiston Utility Contract Number W912EP17C0037. The subject to sewer project request is the Corps' commitment to reimburse the city for costs associated with the design, build project as detailed in the City of Clewiston Continuing Agreement for Professional Services, Johnson Engineering Work Order Number 21. Mr. Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. This project is the next step, if you will, in what action was considered and taken at the last meeting of the commission when you authorized the first step, which was the engineering agreement with Johnson Engineering, as noted in what you just reviewed. The next step was for us to have an agreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to effect their reimbursement to the city for the construction of the improvements to connect their facilities to the extent their budget was available, up to $465,000, which includes the monies allocated for the engineering aspect of the entire project. The scope would be the number of connections that could be bid and constructed within that dollar cap that's available in this year's Army Corps of Engineers budget. I believe we have a representative from the Corps online, and one of the key questions that we wanted to have addressed that's come up is to make sure that whoever signs this document would have the authority from the Corps, and the name that is on the previous agreement was Philip M. Malden, I believe is the way you pronounce it. So at some point during the discussion, we'll want to have Paul representing Corps of Engineers, if he's online, to address that question. We also had other questions raised, and twofold here. Based on our research, the clerk found the previous agreement, which was from 2007 to 2017, for the services that are provided to the Corps in terms of utility services. We had a 10-year agreement that expired, I guess, at the end of 17, and there's been no problem with in terms of the Corps continuing to pay their bills and whatever. But there was no record with the city that was identified that showed that that agreement had been extended. So one of the things we wanted to do tonight was have the resolution adopted, which would extend that agreement, authorize this new agreement that's included in your agenda to extend that agreement from 2017 to 2027. And you have a copy of that and authorize the mayor to execute on behalf of the city. That would be one action to make sure that that's in the city records, that that agreement has been extended properly. The second part of it is we also included language that would be necessary to be incorporated into this extended agreement that, if I'm saying that correctly, and I'll defer to the city attorney if he has different language he'd like to see us use, but that would allow for the to cover the project that's now being proposed, a request for service to expand the scope and of the contract to include sanitary sewer services. Currently, the facilities that are owned by the Corps are served with water service from the city and electrical service, but none of them currently are on sanitary sewer. And since this is a septic to sewer project, what's proposed is to take them off of septic tanks that are currently serving them and increase or connect the entire campus eventually, hopefully, but whatever is within the scope of this budget to public sewer. And we talked a little bit about that at the last meeting, the scope of that. Andy could answer hopefully any questions you have about the project scope, but the way it's envisioned is it would amend this 2017 to 27 agreement to expand it to include sewer and to allow or provide a commitment from the Corps for reimbursement to the city up to $465,000 to pay the $90,000 to Johnson Engineering for the design of the entire project, the scope, and then that was shared with the board in the last agenda, and then for the city to contract with a private contractor following a bid process for the difference in the $90,000 and $465,000 up to that amount in the current fiscal year, federal fiscal year budget, and get that project obligated and connect as many of their buildings as the funding would allow. I believe I've covered the scope of it, but obviously tonight we do not have this language incorporated into, and there probably going to be a couple of tweaks that have been suggested to the language that do not change the basic terms, but just to clarify that it's fully committed, the reimbursement of the funding, and that it be part of expanded agreement for the 17 to 27 agreement going forward, and ensuring that the payments would be made. And I believe that is it. So that would require a subsequent action to bring back that revised 2017 to 27 agreement that to include this language that you have a draft of tonight in your agenda package. I'll be glad to answer any questions and defer to the attorney on any questions you have for him. Again, we also have a representative, I believe, from the Corps, and we have our consulting engineer if you have technical questions. But I hope I've covered the scope of what tonight's action would primarily be to expand that agreement to 2027, and then we will bring back the revisions that specifically relate to this septic to sewer project.
Okay. Thank you, Randy. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. Randy, their intentions are to put how soon do they feel they're going to put the whole campus on sewer? Is that something they're going to be pursuing?
All that they can commit to now is up to $465,000 worth, but they want the designed for connecting all of the facilities, and then it would rely on future funding for anything beyond the scope of that. Andy Mike can give you an idea of how many of those listed options he thinks based on his estimate. Of course, until we bid it, we really won't know. Is the maximum we probably can connect, whether it's 2 or 3 of those facilities. Any beyond that will have to be in some subsequent period when available funding, as I understand it, would be made available through the federal budget for them to further and do any additional connections. We'd already have the engineering done and plans and design, but we would have to rebid it if it was an extended period, obviously. If it came early, before this project was closed out, then possible, but more than likely it would be in some future transaction, which would require another amendment to the agreement and coming back to the board for authorization for that future expansion. I didn't mention this. I was asked a question related to the revenue that would come from this to the city. Of course, we would expand the services. They're a good paying customer now, the Army Corps of Engineers. They currently pay in the neighborhood of $40,000 on average for a year of electric service, and about $7,000 a year in water service. We're estimating conservatively at least $5,000 a year in additional sewer charges once this is complete, is best we can do for now in terms of estimate of what it would produce. So around $52,000 a year. The latest bills have been in the neighborhood of $46,000. So 50 to 51 or whatever would be likely what would be the future billing going forward. Did I answer your question satisfactorily, Commissioner?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one thing when you're ready.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
The only thing I would like to point out and make sure that we have in there, or we hold enough money back for a third-party engineering firm to inspect everything once it's constructed.
Well, we obviously would have a contingency appropriation, and that's certainly something before we bid it, we can ensure that we address any concerns of that nature. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, my turn?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
So, Randy, tonight, the only thing we're being asked to approve is that agreement that's unsigned in our agenda book is that we want to sign that the Corps will pay their bill for electric and water.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
We're not agreeing to anything else tonight.
No, what the attorney and I discussed today is we feel it's prudent to bring back to you the actual revised agreement with this language incorporated in, so you see the final document and then come back to the board. I would ask that as soon as we can get that ready, that we communicate with the board and call a quick meeting to do that rather than wait till next month's regular meeting date, because we are under a time crunch to get this obligated before the end of the fiscal year if we're going to do it. So I would hope we can do that fairly quick turnaround, that adjustment to the document, and bring it back for a subsequent action. So yes, would be my answer to your question.
Okay, and then on top of that, for $5,000 a year,
yes, ma'am,
we're gonna enter into a contract for $465,000 this year, and potentially an overall contract of $750,000 to do this project.
Correct, with 100% reimbursement of the expenditures for the project from the Corps envisioned. Yes, ma'am.
But if we're gonna talk about everything tonight, then I'm gonna talk about that too, because we don't have that from the Corps at this point. In the materials that we've been given so far, the Corps has not committed to that, and may not. You say they verbally committed to $465,000, But the project overall is $750,000.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the wording in the contract, according to page 15 of the contract, says that no funds are available to fund this project. So I just want, if we're going to talk about everything, which it was my understanding that the only thing we were going to do tonight was agree that that agreement that was not signed was going to be signed. So
Correct.
if we're going to talk about everything, then I'm going to talk about everything.
Well, I'm just sharing the information. Obviously,
Well,
the revised contract will need to reflect the appropriate language to fully commit the $465,000 and bear the signature of the authorized contracting official for the Corps on that agreement.
So is the Corps rep on the line?
We believe that there is somebody from the Corps. If you'd like to go ahead and state your name
Yep.
for the record.
Hey, Dave, I can go ahead and take it if you like.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
If you'll
what's
state
your
your name
name?
for the record.
It's Paul Jacques, Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay, Mr. Jacques, go ahead, proceed.
Yes,
I have a question.
so, yes, ma'am.
So has this modification to the contract been approved by the Corps? And is there documentation to support that?
The only document that we have right now is what we've offered to you. It's going to come in the form of a contract modification from a contracting officer. But yes, the funds are available for the whole 465. And as you've seen in the agreement that we send, that we understand that we'll be invoiced for $90,000 in order to start the design, and then we can set up progress payments, if you will, until the completion of the actual work in order to get the entire 465. But at the time of the contract modification, that would be a bona fide obligation of all that fund.
Okay, so I have two questions for you. One, so this request for modification has already gone before your chief officer that has to sign off on this, and he signed off on it.
That's agreed, and also through our legal review.
So is there documentation to support that you can provide to us?
I'm not exactly sure, but I can ask for it. I don't know if they have any written review remarks. It's not normal that I would receive that, but I certainly could ask for it if that's what you'd like.
Yeah, because what I can see of your procedures, it says that it has to go before them for approval before it comes to us. That you're asking us to modify a contract that's in excess of $500,000, and that there's a procedure that this has to go through at the Corps, that I want to see that it has gone through that and that you have the documentation to support that. Okay? So if you can provide that
Yes.
to the Commission before we're asked to approve this, that would be great. The other thing is,
Yes,
I want you to explain on the record why you want us to do this and why you aren't going to do this. Why doesn't the Corps contract directly with the Corps builds projects every day around the world, and they contract with companies to do that? Why are we being asked to do this?
Yes, ma'am, because it was a reasonable and feasible way for us in order to get the work accomplished, as we already have a contractual relationship with the city on our other utilities, and that their familiarity and your ownership of that utility, it would be just it would,
Okay, so
it would just be the right way in order to go about this. It was a one avenue approach that sounded that would be the best.
So, Jock, we have a contract with you to provide electrical service to you and water
That's
service
correct.
to you. We do
Yes, ma'am.
not have a contract with you, a construction contract with you, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people that the Corps has construction relationships with. I don't understand why the city is being asked to do this.
Mainly because it is your infrastructure and you have contractors that do that work for you. in order to provide
Don't you have
service.
contractors?
Yes, ma'am. We could. What you're stating is true, but we find that this would be the most feasible and easiest way for us to go about this in the time frame that we had these funds available in order to commit by the end of this fiscal year. So going through.
So are you going to enter into a contract with us to pay us for anything that we're liable for under a contract with a third-party contractor to build this? Is the Corps willing to say, we'll reimburse the city dollar for dollar? If the city gets sued, you're going to pay those attorney's fees and court costs. If it goes over budget, you're going to pay those costs. If whatever happens, we're not going to be on the hook for anything out of pocket.
Yeah, ma'am, I'm not sure if I can speak to that at this time. Actually, I could find that question, answer that question, find that out, but I don't have that response for you this evening as far as the liabilities and legalities. What I can tell you though is that we guarantee that we have $465,000, and based on the bids, we're going to contract those out. And each leg someone asked earlier, I was listening to, of how much of this work of all the system that will be completed in construction is why we're offering or in our agreement suggesting that we have options. So based on the actual bid cost, we will select as many options in order to get as much of that infrastructure added this year on this particular agreement.
So you said someone had submitted a bid. Who submitted a bid?
No, ma'am. We're looking for, after we go through the process of the city actually doing that through Johnson Engineering.
Okay.
That which was already the services were for the engineering design was already approved in your last commission meeting.
Well, sort of. Okay. So.
Okay. So we are prepared. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to just say that as part of the agreement that you probably have in front of you right now, we do understand that we're going to be immediately invoiced for that $90,000 in order to start that engineering services, so the design and the bids can be solicited.
Well, so that $90,000 has got to be part of the overall contract with the city. So I think that there's not going to be any payment of that $90,000, as I understand it, until we have a contract for the overall project.
No, not quite, ma'am. I think that better explanation would be is upon agreement of what you have in front of you right now, we will have that contract modification to our existing contract relationship for the separation, and then as soon as that's signed, then we have the means, the funding means to legally start paying those invoices for the additional service charge, including the construction.
Well, it's my understanding that none of that has been done. None of that work has been done yet. So I don't think that. I think that's a little premature, but that's fine.
But, well, one comment, if I could interject, Randy Martin, city manager, for those listening, maybe the contract is where the confusion would be there. We're not going to obviously have a contract with a contractor to do the construction until after those agreements have all been approved and signed. And as soon as we have the document, then we can forward the engineering. So I think we're talking about two different contracts, possibly.
Well, the first contract is that we want a contract between the city and the Corps.
Correct.
It says the Corps is going to reimburse us for the $90,000 and which is going to be part of the $465,000. Obviously, if we're not going to do the $465,000 contract, we don't need the $90,000 one.
Exactly, and but that's what the language that they have proposed in the request for service is envisioned, is they will be committing the 465, of which 90 would be the first phase, if you will, because of the engineering, and that's what we'll bring back, the revised language inserted into this extended contract if the board approves that tonight, as I hope you will, for your further consideration. And so I hope that'll clear up any questions.
Okay, and in addition, I think that the addendum, when it does come to the city, has to be clear that the overall project is $750,000, and that what I assume that the Corps we need to say that we're going to be, our exposure is going to be capped at 465 for the first phase. Or phase 2, if you want to call the engineering the first phase, the second phase of $465,000. That's the max that the city is going to be required to expend, and it needs to be clear because I don't think it is in the documentation that we provided so far that option 1 through 3 and 4 are going to be done on a basis of the city only spending $465,000, which means if the project gets 1/3 of the way built with $465,000, that we're not obligated, like the documents say right now, to provide them a completed and fully functional system because we may run out of cash.
No, if I can clear that up, the document will need to reflect accurately that we're only obligated for the pieces that are going to be connected for fully functional. We're not going to be obligated for anything that costs more than $465,000, and we're not going to let a contract to that effect. I don't think the revision that you'll be considering now, well, I know, will not envision a $750,000 project. We cleared that up in our discussions with the Corps. That would require another amendment to the contract when additional dollars are fully committed and available in the Corps' budget to hook up the rest of it. So the action that you'll be asked to take after tonight would be up to $465,000, and that's it. And then if in a year or two from now we needed to, or next year, we need to amend the agreement again to encompass the additional facilities with additional funding commitment, then we'll come back to the board. It's only going to be limited to $465,000, as I understand our discussions with the Corps, because that's all they have in their budget that they can contract.
Yes, I'll confirm. That's exactly our understanding.
Okay.
And it is our intent in order to use the city in order to complete the work also. But exactly what you said, we can't, I don't think we'll be able to make that commitment until we actually have the funds to commit. So to put a timeline to it, it's really not known at this time.
And the city, and likewise, the city won't be committed beyond the 465. We're not going to enter into any contractual or present a contract to the board that would enter us into any cost in excess of what's available.
That's correct. We can't even propose a contract modification if we don't have the funds available.
Now, I will say this, if for whatever miraculous reason Andy's projections are much higher, it may not be that more to completion. We'll see, or it could be even more than $750,000. We don't know until we bid it. But in either event, that's just an estimate now, and we're not going to rely on it. All we can rely on is what is available, and we will bid it, and whatever that contract will cover, we'll bring back to the board for contractual approval to a contractor who's qualified to do the work, and then that's it until some future agreement expands the scope of the project to include those pieces that are not connected this time around.
That's right, Randy, and just to show that that's absolutely correct. That's why we offer the strategy of having options for different legs of the system itself, not knowing what the bid prices are going to come in. So all the actual work that needs to be done and we like to have done is in those options. So if there's some kind of a miracle that for 465 they can do the whole system based on their bids that come in, we're going to execute all of that work. if it doesn't, then we're going to have to go find additional funding, say, for the remaining leg or two.
Yeah, and of course, one caveat real quickly, the engineering, we all agreed, will be 100%. It's for the entire project scope. Whatever's funding available, it'll encompass the plans for doing all the buildings at some point in time. But that's all that would be obligated in the initial obligations to is the scope and design, not the actual construction.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
from
go ahead.
Gary. So, Gary, at what point is the city going to be obligated, and is the Corps going to be obligated? At what point is that going to happen?
Well, I'd like to point out that the request for service that you have in your backup is not signed by anybody at the Corps of Army Engineers. So I'd like the gentleman on the phone to reemphasize that request for service has been properly approved and authenticated by the Corps of Army Engineers.
That is correct. It is. I couldn't have this conversation with you if we didn't have that level of process going through the contracting officer and our legal department. So what you have in front of you actually has been vetted by them already. Yes, it's true. There isn't any signatures on it. What we had proposed was, upon agreement of this particular document, that we would take that and immediately put that into a contract modification with signature and deliver that to the city for execution.
So your request tonight really is for the commission to approve this concept, and that then, once approved, the Corps will put it into a final agreement form that will be presented to the board in the near future for their execution.
That's correct, and like Randy was saying, it's very reasonable for the city to come back with notes for us to do an amendment to it. We were anticipating that there may be that case.
Okay. And then I have one more question with respect to the service part of this transaction. The agreement for service, it appears that it's dated September 28, 2017, but it doesn't appear that there's any signature by the city. Is that a request at this point then for the city to retroactively approve that service agreement going forward to 2027?
Actually, it's been, shall we say, typical that with the utilities contract with the municipality, that it is showing, that contract is showing our commitment to the city. So it actually can be done unilaterally. The city could sign it, but it is our commitment that we are going to pay our bill. Yes, it could be done, but it's not necessary in order for us to show our commitment to the terms of that contract.
Okay. So, Commissioner, to answer your question, it seems to me that the city should approve the service agreement going forward to 2027, which is in your backup tonight, and that the request for service needs to be put into its final form and then presented back to the city for your consideration as soon as possible. And at that time, when we look at the details of that final contract, we'll be able to answer your question as to how far the city is committed and to what extent. The general rule for the city, of course, is you can't commit the city to dollars you don't have available.
That's correct. That's correct. These dollars are available.
He's talking about the city.
The city can't commit to it either until the city has the monies available.
That's why the
I
strategy
understand
was
that
to
this
be
is a
invoiced.
reimbursement situation where ultimately the work's going to be done by the city to a contractor they hire, and the contractor then will be paid by the city and reimbursed by the Corps up to the limits of the Corps' budget, which currently is $465. Is that your understanding?
If I may, no, if I may just kind of change that, I'm going to, it's not going to be a reimbursement it's actually going to be invoiced to us prior to those services. Just like the design, the city's not going to commit to the Johnson Engineering do the design until we actually pay that initial invoice. That's what we anticipate.
Understood
for this. Okay.
What about the
Why?
construction, though? Sir, what about the construction, though?
Yes, the same, any expense by the city for that contract, construction contract.
Why?
I'm not sure the question, why to what, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Why is that what you're willing to commit to? Again, and Gary, again, I come back to everyone's position is that the city's not going to be out one penny for this project, but the only way that we can protect ourselves in that regard is to have a contract that says that basically the Corps will indemnify us and hold us harmless with regard to any other costs or expenses. We have no guarantee otherwise. And so I think there's a lot of hair on this issue because exactly what you said, how are we going to obligate ourselves to this contract? Where are we going to obligate ourselves from? What fund? And two, how are we going to protect ourselves? So it looks like the standard Form 30 that the contract uses or a modification of the contract looks like it's got some leeway for the particulars to be laid out there. But overall, I think the commission should require a full indemnification. We're only doing this at the request of one customer that's going to net us about $5,000 gross a year, and we're going out on the limb to the tune of $465,000, taxpayer dollars, with nothing in writing.
No, we haven't done that yet, but we will be after it is in writing.
Commissioner, I believe the requested action tonight is just to approve the extension of the service agreement with the details of the actual commitment going forward to come back to you in a expanded full agreement with the Corps.
Okay, that is my understanding as well. We have resolution number 2020-32, a resolution of the City of Clewiston, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute contract number W912EP1 7C0037 between the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the City of Clewiston. At this time, we will take any public comments. We will unmute the line. Please hit *1 to speak. Okay. Not hearing any public comment, we'll go ahead and mute the lines again. Okay. And so, again, we have read it by title. The recommendation is to approve the resolution, and this is specifically to expand the agreement or extend the agreement to 2027, and it does not do anything other than that tonight. With additional, after tonight's approval, if that happens, then more modifications and information will come back to us for a review by our agreement for service, a review by our city attorney and our city manager, as outlined tonight's conversation. Mr. Attorney, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other questions or comments by the City Commission? Mr. Martin, is there any other comments?
Yep.
No, sir.
Mayor,
Yes, go
Mayor,
ahead.
just a quick question. I know that we've been listening to a excellent perspective on the legal side of this issue from our commissioner and from our council. The thing that I like to ask the council, if we move forward tonight on this, does this put us in any position that the city is that we're starting this process on the wrong foot, or is this, or he feels comfortable by us going ahead and approving this tonight? It just kind of starts us to go ahead and proceed with all the other contractual service, other contracts and everything else, all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted. So tonight, we're not committing anything other than that. That's that question I'd just like to ask to the council, our council.
Sir, the item before you is to formalize the service commitment. Perhaps it should have been done back in 2017 with the board's approval. It doesn't appear that was done. So now tonight we're fixing that issue. We're moving forward with a service agreement with the Corps of Army Engineers to 2027. Any future commitments regarding the city expending monies for projects are going to have to be subject to future approval and a future agreement that's approved by the commission.
Thank you, Council.
Any other questions or comment from the commission? Is there a motion?
I do have.
Yes, go ahead.
Mayor?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I've got one thing. If we approve this contract tonight, and does this reflect the new water and sewer rates that we passed last month that are going to take effect in 21?
There's no effect on that. The rates are what the rates are, and we bill them for the current rates. And so we're going to review the projections for the full 10 years and see if that needs to be modified. But at this point, they're obligated to pay whatever the bill is. That was just an estimate in the contract previously. So it will cover whatever bill increase. We're not obligated to charge them anything less than what our current billing is.
Okay, my question basically was to make sure that if we entered into the contract till 20 whatever, that we wasn't stuck to that number, that it goes up and down as we adjust the rates for everyone else.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to also just state for the record, work order number 21 was approved at the April 20th, 2020 regular commission meeting by resolution number 2020-31. Again, the resolution 2020-32 has been read by title. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Mayor.
Okay, that's Commissioner Rodriguez made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by the Vice Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Jacques, for being on the phone with us and explaining from the Corps' perspective. We appreciate it. Okay, next item on the agenda is resolution number 2020-33, a resolution of the City of Clewiston, Florida, approving the award of the lift stations number 21 and number 24 bypass pump improvements contract to Borromeo Construction Incorporated and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. Mr. Martin?
Yes, ma'am. And commissioners, we did have a bid opening. You have the documentation of the bid opening and all the other supporting documentation. This is part of the consent order that the city entered into some time ago with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. It checks the box for one of the items that was in that work order. The low bidder, we had several bids, and you saw the results of those. And the low bidder, we've had the recommendation from the engineer to award. He did not have any finding, and he recommended we award to the low bidder. I'll defer to Danny and staff if they have any comments they want to make regarding the project, specific comments, and to the engineer if they have any questions for Danny. Hopefully he can respond to that as well.
This is Danny Williams, Utility Director. I just want to remind the Commission that this project will be covered under the I&I funds.
Okay, and that is the SRF loan agreement WW 260421.
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, this is an eligible expenditure under that, and just looking ahead, we hope to have that agreement back from the state for formal action by the board at your next meeting, along with the bids on the balance of the I&I work, the actual line rehab and slip lining and so forth. We've gotten the bids on those, and we hope to have both on your next agenda for action. But this is an eligible expenditure, but by going ahead and approving it tonight, obviously it can't be used for that SRF funding until that loan agreement is executed and approved at a subsequent board meeting. But we need to move this part of the project as quickly as possible. So we want to go ahead and get it awarded tonight, given the amount of it. The next one is over $1 million, and we want to have the loan agreement in place before we present that.
Okay, I just have a question. The name sounds familiar. Have they done work for the city before?
Correct. This is a contractor that did I was informed, the police department project, and that we just recently completed. They were the general contractor for that project as well. I don't know if they've done any previous other work besides that project. I'll defer to Danny if he's aware of any other, but they did do that project. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and everything went accordingly?
I inquired with the chief and Danny and through the staff, the finance director and all about our interactions with them, and the project was completed. As you know, the project took longer than anticipated, but that was not entirely the responsibility of the contractor. The city made some adjustments to the contract and so forth during it, and I'll defer to Danny if he wants to comment on any further on that, but no one with the city staff objected to them being a contractor for a future project.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
And the engineer, he interviewed their references and came to a similar conclusion with the references provided that they would all rehire this contractor for another project.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll defer to the attorney if he has any comments to add. He has reviewed all the documentation.
Okay.
No further comments, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Questions or comments from the commission? If there's not been any further comments from the commission, we'll go ahead and unmute the lines for any public comment. Please press #1 if you would like to make a comment on resolution number 2020-33. Not hearing any comments, we'll go ahead and mute the lines again. Okay, and again, the recommendation is to approve resolution number 2020-33. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion from the Vice Mayor. Is there a second? I have a second from Commissioner Peterson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Martin, we have you on here for a COVID-19 update and discussion. Mr. Martin, you'll need to unmute your phone.
Thank you. I forgot. I apologize. Grabbed the papers and didn't look back. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give a quick update for the public. Particularly, I have updated the commission. We are currently at 222 confirmed cases in the county. Our numbers have grown very significantly in the recent weeks. Since May the 4th, we have seen an increase from 111 cases to 222. I guess coincidentally, that's exactly a 100% increase. The number of deaths in the county are 12. The vast majority of cases have been in the Clewiston zip code, which covers areas including Montour, Harlem, and Pioneer, and rural parts of the county in and around the city. The number of hospitalized patients is now up to 38 of the patients. They're in either the local hospital or other regional hospitals that they've been transferred to. We've had 5 areas of outbreak that have been identified at the Department of Health. 2 of those are the 2 nursing homes in the county, and also the detention facility in Palm Beach County near South Bay has contributed to our totals. Those numbers have continually increased, and it really have impacted our current total significantly in the last couple of weeks, particularly 2 business. The other 2 pockets are 2 private business commercial endeavors that have contributed significantly. Roughly just under 2/3, 60-some%, just under 2/3 of the cases are associated with those 5. Some of the cases prior to recent were associated with just community spread. But that's where we stand on the numbers. We are anything but in a decline or flattening of the curve, as it was referred to earlier in the process by state and federal officials. Our neighbors are experiencing something similar in the county. And next to us, Palm Beach County, the areas most immediate to Clewiston, Belglade, South Bay, and Pahokee. South Bay and Pahokee have right at 100 patients, confirmed cases prior to today's report. I haven't looked at it today. And the Belglade is in around 269 before the latest report cases. So they have had a similar growth in numbers. Okeechobee County, although much lower numbers, has seen their numbers increase at a much faster pace in the last week or so. And Glades County has also seen some increase, although they're at a very low number comparatively. The vast majority of the cases are in the Clewiston zip code, but LaBelle and Clewiston have seen an increase in numbers, with LaBelle having, I think the latest figures showed 36 cases, and Clewiston with 183. Again, the zip code much larger than the city. We've only seen 33 cases. Somebody referred to it as cleared, but they are the ones that are no longer requiring patients to be isolated. Only 33 of the 222 have been in that category identified, and of course 12 deceased as a result of the virus. As far as the city's actions, we continue to stay alert and stay the course in terms of our restrictions. We're enforcing the governor's orders that have been issued, and they've relaxed some businesses to open as long as they comply with certain requirements. We're attempting to enforce that locally to the best of our ability. Most of our businesses have been allowed to be reopened. There are a few businesses that still have not been cleared by the state for reopening. And then we have not left phase one of the reopening plan, which still restricts gatherings to 10 people or less. So the city facilities where gatherings are typically held are no longer, or still are not being leased or open to the public. We're going to continue that. We continue to have our offices limited in terms of visitors being able to come in until we see these numbers relax. That's my intention. We're looking at future things like whether to have summer camp and open the pool. We're collaborating with our partners and talking to various entities. We'll be making some judgments on those very soon. But at this point, I'm going to approach those very conservatively, and I'm not going to do anything that I think is going to contribute to the spread of the virus or relax our citizens from hopefully all citizens remaining vigilant at enforcing and doing their part to comply with social distancing, the hygiene requirements that have been advocated by the CDC, and to avoid large public gatherings. And that's my report for tonight, Mayor and Commission. I've been sending out regular updates, and I'll continue to do that. But we're doing some improvements to facilities in preparation for future. But at this point, that's why we're still meeting virtually tonight, and we intend to keep doing all of this as long as it seems prudent given the current state of affairs with the rising numbers we have. And I just can't emphasize enough to the general public that they need to adhere to this. We are having a significant outbreak of patients in Hendry County, and the city environs and around the city need to stay the course and stick with the guidance that's been provided to us. Thank you. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Randy, can you just update also on testing? I know that last week I guess, quote, open, unquote, testing began in Clewiston through the Florida Department of Health. If you could just update us on that information, please, to see if it's working.
Yes, 100 or so people have already taken advantage of it. The open testing is offered 2 days a week. It's on our website, the specifics, the hours of day. At this point, they're still asking people to make appointments, but you do not have to have any pre-existing conditions or a recommendation from your physician to do that. Anyone can be tested, is my understanding, and it is free. They do it at the Clewiston Health Department on Tuesdays, Thursdays during the appointed hours. They're doing it in LaBelle on Mondays and Wednesdays. I believe they're doing it also at least one day in Moorhaven at the health department there. Those, like I say, during the first 3 days of that, we've had over 100 tests taken. We do need to have more testing because the percentage of our positive tests is higher than the state's recommendation of acceptable range. It's 18%. And the state is recommending 10% be the goal. The target, the average statewide is 7%. So we need to get more testing to hopefully lower that number. And we're encouraging everyone that feels like they need a test or whether they feel like it or not, if they're interested in having a test, to get in touch with the health department and seek that. Also, the health department's doing business training for business owners and employees. They're doing that. It's being coordinated through the chamber and the EDC. The EDC's taking a leadership role in getting people registered. They had I think 70-some business contacts that took it last week in 2 evening classes. They're going to still offer that. People need to sign up for it online and take those training, and they'll help you in opening a business or in managing the business to comply with the guidance and make suggestions and offer posters and other things that can be posted in the businesses. Thank you for that prompt, Mayor. Overall, we've started ramping up the testing, but we still are hitting it at 18%. I think we're up now 1,200 to 1,300 tests to date through yesterday, and obviously 18% of them have been positive.
Okay, thank you for the update. Is there any questions or comments from the Commission of Mr. Martin? Okay, all right, not being any questions on the COVID-19 update and discussion from the Commission, we'll move on to old business. Randy?
I have nothing else for this evening. I'll be glad to answer any questions the commission has under your comment.
Okay. All right. I just have a question as we look at old business. I know that I reached out to you and to the city attorney. I really believe it's important that we look at this vacant building ordinance and try to move forward with that. I don't know where we're at in the process. I know that there was a review at one time from the P&Z board and the CRA, but I think it's very important for us to go ahead and move forward with this.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just that there continues to be just, I would say, deterioration on these facilities.
That's where it's at. Is we had a scheduled work session which had to be canceled because of the COVID, and as soon as we can get them back meeting and reviewing that, that's high priority is to get that along with the other area of actions concentrated on the plan, documentation and zoning changes for the downtown or Highway 27 corridor actions. Those are two items that are on their work session list. As soon as we can get that scheduled, I'll talk to the community development about whether we want to do a virtual meeting to get that moving again. And if it doesn't look prudent to have an open meeting yet, maybe we can do a virtual meeting of that group and have that discussion go forward on both of those regulations.
Okay. Gary, I know it's up to you. Can you give us some input on this? Because, I mean, I just think that, I know we've been talking about the US 27 corridor since 2016, 2017, and I just don't want to continue to delay the vacant building, especially on, just overall the city, but especially on the highway, because of the fact that it's not going to get any better. And I don't want to see us continue to drag it out. And I know that the US 27 corridor is important, but for right now, this is something that I think that needs to be addressed.
Well, Mayor, with respect to the US 27 corridor, I think, as you recall, the draft of that agreement was pretty complicated, and I believe the discussion progressed to the point that we were talking about color palette, and then they were going to move on to signage. So I would suggest that if any of the commissioners feel that there is a specific topic that needs to be addressed currently, perhaps we could pull that out of that ordinance and move forward with the specific topics as opposed to waiting for the entire thing.
Okay. Well, I just know for me, the vacant building, but I would ask the rest of the commission to please discuss it with the city manager. But I think that your advice to pull out certain things is exactly what we need to do, in my opinion.
And if I recall correctly, pardon me for interjecting, the vacant building was a standalone ordinance that the attorney had presented a draft of, so maybe that's a good one to start with. That's an easy one, and then any others that the commission suggests.
I want to do both of them. I'm with Molly. I think that we need to move forward. Now, I think that we have to have the courtesy of the P&Z board and the CRA weigh in, but they have to do that. So whether it's by virtual meeting or however, I wish that you would move forward with that and in a timely manner. And I don't know how much notice and everything they need, but if it's not going to be on the agenda, on our next agenda, then it needs to be on the next one, because I think what we're going to run into is we're going to run into the budget before long, which is going to occupy all our time. So we need to get those two things off the list.
Yeah. Well, I would, because I think Gary's point about the U.S. corridor ordinance is such a, this is a heavy lift. That's why we haven't got to where it needs to be. But I think since Randy's pointed out, or that it's a separate ordinance for the vacant building, I wish we could just at least, take that and address it in the short term, and then pull out the sections of the corridor ordinance that we want to go ahead and address maybe before we begin, during the next two meetings. That's
Molly,
just my thought.
If we don't force ourselves to do the heavy lifting, we're never going to heavy lift. We got a heavy lift.
Okay.
Why don't we just do it? let's deal with it. Let's take however much time we need to take and get it done.
Okay. And I agree. I mean, I think we were headed in that direction before March the 20th. But since it's two separate ordinances, I think the vacant buildings, we should go ahead and, I don't want to just marry those together because of the fact that the vacant building is for the entire town. It's not just for Highway 27. So I'd like to see that be moved as quickly as possible and begin the US 27 corridor as well. But not hold one for the other. We need to get one done. Is there anybody else, any other comments from the commission?
Yeah, Mayor, under the old business, I get asked all the time, Ventura, when is Ventura going to get improved, and when are we going to start the work on Ventura? I wonder if Randy can give us an update on how we're doing on this.
Okay, if you'd like, I can go ahead and do that now, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
All right, the engineer and staff and I have met. The estimate is well above the available dollars from the state for the entire scope of the project, so we're reviewing that, looking at ways we can lower the gap, if you will, between our estimate and what available dollars were approved. The original estimate was what the grant dollars, and that was from our previous engineer, was based upon. So that doesn't preclude us from asking for additional money going forward, but the monies that have been approved are not available to us till July. So what our goal is to try to get ready to bid and get it out to bid, so when the funds are available, we'll be able to get bids, and then we'll know exactly what we can accomplish and how much funding is available from the grant as well as any city resources to put towards the project. And so I'm hopeful very early in the budget process we'll have those numbers for you, and an update on what we estimate the cost, and the budget the bidding process can get started so that we'll have real numbers. And it's scheduled for next fiscal year, the project, once we have the bids, and it'll only be for what we have available funding, plus from whatever sources that we'll have, but we do need to address it. Obviously, the condition of the street, the pavement, existing condition is not good. We are going to incorporate into that seeking bids for the addition of the driveway aprons, as we've discussed previously, so that we can take care of that area as needs, and then we'd go through an assessment process to recapture those funds after the project.
So in all reality, what time frame are we looking at?
Well, it's not funded until after July 1 by DOT, so we can't do anything in terms of obligating anything before that. But the engineer is very close to completing the plans and making some of the adjustments we discussed in a meeting a few weeks ago. So hopefully he can give us an update. Maybe I can have that for the next meeting on when we would project we'd be out to bid.
That sounds good. The Commissioner Rodriguez, does answer your question for an update for the next meeting?
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. All right, under old business, is there any other discussion or questions from the Commission?
I have one thing for the attorney to find out if we know anything else on the ownership of the Clewiston Canal.
Commissioner, I received the information regarding the Clewiston Canal and the original dedication to the United States of America. And I am now trying to ascertain what agency of the United States is in control of that canal. And I should have an update for you in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Randy, is there? Okay. I have a
Go ahead.
question with regard to the item number 20 on the old business. Why are we waiting until 7:20 to do that? With regard to reviewing the engineers and adding additional professional engineers.
Mr. Martin, unmute your phone, please.
Thank you. I apologize, Mayor. reaching for the documents. You're still not getting up to date and getting used to this. We put 27/20/20, but I've actually had the discussion more recently with staff and with the city attorney today. So we are going to push forward. I found out that the attorney did the solicitation last time, prepared that. So I've asked him to update that. I'll let him comment if he wants to tonight, and to move that up as quickly as possible to go ahead and get additional proposals for engineering services. And there is timeliness to that. We need that in the near term to solicit those proposals because of some of the new legislation is going to require, as Vice Mayor mentioned earlier, about having a different engineer do the inspection services than the engineer who prepared the drawings. We're going to run into that when we bid the Ventura project and possibly others. So we want to go on and move that up and get that going as quickly as we can to fill that void and get a broader list of engineers and come back to you with a recommendation. So hopefully we can do that sooner than the July meeting. I don't know if Gary wants to comment on it now, but we just discussed that today.
Mayor, the manager spoke to me today about pulling out that solicitation and updating it for your use. I intend to do that right away.
Thank you. Okay. Any other thing under old business? All right. I have, it's not on here because I don't think it's on here, but Mr. Martin, I know that you briefed us that I guess it was May 15th was the new maps are out. Can you give us an update on all that for the public?
Yes, just real briefly, I'll send out any information that's requested, but we had a Zoom call with the chamber recently, and one of the realtors did an excellent job, Laura Smith, of describing the changes. We had a presentation a couple of months ago, I think it was, from Mr. Reese, our Planning and Community Development Director, gave you an update on it. That date came and went on the 15th. They are in place now, and I understand their website's being updated to show the new maps so the public can access those maps and get information on how their property is affected. The city has discussed with the folks in FEMA getting an update of it again, another review after the HHD, the Herbert Hoover Dike project is complete, which is expected to positively impact our FEMA flood insurance rating and maps again. But for the current, the new maps went into effect after Friday. That was the period they had listed. And I haven't personally checked those online, but I'm told that they are in the process of updating their online mapping so that individual property owners can check. Also, it's my understanding all property owners have already or will be soon receiving a written letter from FEMA advising them of the change. If they hadn't already gotten that, you can ask FEMA and they'll forward you one. But all property owners are expected to receive a letter. I know at least some properties have already gotten that letter advising them of the actions and how it could impact them. The other thing I would suggest property owners do is contact their insurance company to make sure that any positive changes are reflected in their bills, so that if their status has changed, that they can make sure that their billing reflects the change in status. I'll leave it to the customers whether they want to pursue it if their status went in the wrong direction and it's going to increase their bill, but it could be some of those. But
okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Comments? Any other additional comments, Mr. Martin?
Mrs. Peterson had mentioned to me she was going to bring up a couple of things. I don't know if she's still online and can do that, or she intends to, or if she wants to wait on that. She had asked me a question about fireworks. I'll throw that into the same ones that we'll be considering. I'll go ahead and mention that since she asked me about it directly. Along with all the other outdoor activities, that'll be one that we'll be considering. The company that provides the fireworks for us has agreed that if for whatever reason the city cancels it in a timely manner, we would not lose any money. That funding would be available for next year's fireworks or any subsequent fireworks. But I did want to comment on that since she asked me about that, and she may have other questions or comments.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is that the only other comment you have?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Comments from our city attorney?
I recently provided all the commissioners with a document updating the status of the Clewiston Commons lawsuit. And unless there's any questions from the commissioners, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Any questions from the commission?
And I just want to say, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just want to mention that we're not out of the woods yet, and I'm not going to repeat what Randy's update, which was a very good update. But we got to stay on course, and we got to listen. We got to stay with the CDC guidelines. And I stress, the wearing of the mask. I think it's so important that when people are in shopping, Walmart or anywhere in town, to wear a mask. Number two, I shop. I go into a lot of these businesses throughout the week, and they're all doing, for the most part, they're doing a good job to be corona proof, virus proof. With the plexiglass, and I see a lot of the employees with masks. So, I see a lot of cooperation from our community, but I think we need to understand that we're this is not it's not over yet. We have a long way to go, and we have to continue following these guidelines. Maybe well into the summer. So I appreciate the cooperation that we're. I know we've had some issues with some areas that we haven't cooperated, but those have been few in between. But again, I wish the community to continue on that course and stay safe, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. Commissioner Peterson?
Yes. I had an opportunity to speak with Ms. Highslope this week from the chamber, and she has what I believe is a wonderful idea to do drive-in movies, and talked about the use of the larger side of the John Boy. And I would hope that our recreation could enter into some conversations with her about that. Drive-in movie, you stay in your car. She'll have a way for people to be able to hear what that movie is. She is thinking about doing one for teens, doing one for kids, and at a spot where we've all been staying inside and looking for things to do. That resonated with me, and I'm hoping that our recreation will join with her to get it accomplished.
Okay, Mr. Martin, since you're basically recreation, I'm going to let you address that later.
Yes, she had mentioned that to me. I wasn't going to steal her thunder on that one, but I certainly have done that in communities before. Of course, it was before COVID, but I think it's a good social distancing activity. So we will discuss that with the chamber. And I would also be remiss, I just got a call right before the meeting from U.S. Sugar, and I wasn't going to mention it, but I think I will. One of the real tragedies to this thing, obviously there's a lot of tragedies, but one of the very unfortunate things is our high school seniors losing the opportunity for all the things that go along with high school graduation and right. How they're being impacted. I was just really pleased to hear right before the meeting started that U.S. Sugar wants to cooperate with us to display a banner congratulating and recognizing the class of 2020, a very large banner in one of our parks in a prominent place, something like the Civic Park. And we're going to work with them to try to do that. And then they'll have a smaller version for seniors and families to come and take a picture with, so they won't have to stand so far away from it out towards the highway. But I'm hopeful that that's going to happen really quickly, like in the next few days. They have already ordered and will soon receive the banners. So I guess that's a positive note to end my comments tonight.
Okay. Yes, sir. Christine, did you have anything
Mayor
else?
Gardner?
Yes.
I do. I want to make a comment about the testing, if I may, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
And I do want to share, I share my personal stuff. I want our citizens to understand, I went to have a test 2 weeks ago. I asked to have an antibody test because way back at the end of February, beginning of March, I had a cough. Turns out that I had COVID-19, but it was within the 30 days before I had the test done. The test identifies when you were infected. And I do have the antibody. I am thankful that I'm a rule follower and that I have really stayed at home, because I could have gone out in public without a mask on, and heaven only knows how many people I could have infected. So we may be feeling good. We may think everything is fine. I was positive and I was asymptomatic. So I encourage people to please go get the testing done. They talk about the herd immunity. We need to have a herd immunity, whatever that is going to look like. If you don't have the antibody test done, we don't know how many have the immunity. So please consider that testing, and I mirror what Commissioner Rodriguez says. Please wear your masks in public, because you just don't know. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and I'm glad that you're on this side of it. That's good. Very good. And on the test, can I just ask you a question on the antibody testing? Is that the same place like for the Department of Health, or did you have to go to
I had mine at my healthcare provider here in Clewiston.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else? Christine?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
Good, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And then Commissioner McGahey?
Nothing from me.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
The only thing I have is, I know that the county commission used the John Boy last Tuesday for their commission meeting. And if we're still in the same phase at our next meeting, me personally, I would like to try to do something like that where we're in person. It gives us enough space to have the social distance. If everybody else feels comfortable trying to do that. Which we can look at that, I guess, when it gets closer.
I would think that, the guidance is if you have 14 days of diminished positive testing, that it's maybe something we should consider. But at this point, it is too early to tell. But with a positivity rate of 18% in Hendry County, and we know most cases are on the east side of the county, I'm concerned about that. That's my personal opinion. We have until, I believe the governor has put the law through, or the emergency order through June the 30th. Is that correct, Randy?
I believe it's July the 7th.
July 7th, okay.
So it would cover us for the next meeting either way. But if you like, I could poll the board members and get everybody's input as we get closer.
Yeah, I just think as we get closer, we kind of look at it and see kind of where we're at, and see if we are on the decline or flattened off, so that we could look at that. We've got a month before the next meeting, so we got plenty of time.
Okay, all right. I'll make my decision based on the data, so we'll see what happens in the next maybe 2 weeks. Those are my thoughts.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Mayor, well,
yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make one more comment if I could.
Yes.
We were going to move forward with the Memorial Day ceremony, the students were. But with the numbers that we have decided we are attempting to videotape. We're going to put together an honor ceremony, and we will be putting that online. While we were on this meeting, I had a text from somebody asking about that. So we will be doing a Memorial Day ceremony, but it will be videotaped. We're going to put it online. The chamber is going to share it. Corinne is going to put it on the city's website so that we will be honoring those soldiers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's going to be on the 25th at what time?
It's going to be posted at 9 in the morning.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes,
all
ma'am.
Right. Mr. Vice Mayor, did you have anything else?
No, ma'am, that was it.
Okay. All right. Anything else from any other commission or Mr. Martin, Mr. Brandenburg?
No, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. If there's not any other comments, then I will go ahead and accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
To adjourn.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Rodriguez and a second by the Vice Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you so much. Be safe, everybody.